Hello everybody and welcome back to our Contemporary House series. Today we're going to jump into trying to wrap up the living space and we'll improve our performance here, turn off profiles as well. And I've been looking over what we built on the previous episode, and I think we can still boil it down a little bit further to save some of the space. And so what we can do is probably narrow the coffee table and even maybe condense the size of our love seat slash couch thing. It's called like a demi couch. So we can probably, let's scale this down a little bit this way, maybe. I mean, we could probably leave the width. Maybe I'll bring it down to 0.98. And then bring this down 0.97. Just to change the dimensions a little bit, and just to make sure that it will actually fit a human. We can go over here and grab Steve, and yeah, I mean, I think that will work. I think he'd be comfortable on that, so we can delete him. Thank you, Steve. And now we won't do the same with the coffee table because we don't want the legs to be skewed a little bit. They'll sort of be noticeably thinner if we go this way than the top and the bottom. And I guess it's kind of fine with the couch because they're a little bit more hidden. But these dimensions are a little bit more obvious. So we're going to scale this down to maybe just 2 feet wide, which will bring us to there. So we'll go in and we'll just see what that brings it over to 3.5 inches this way. So we'll just pull everything over 3.5. And now this piece is only offsetting to 3/4 for some reason. So we'll delete the top here. And I guess it's probably this line here. Probably sort of a remnant left over from when we pulled this off the warehouse. Delete those extra lines and turn off hidden faces now, and then we can pull this over. There we go, and that will wrap up the coffee table. And now because we did adjust the size of the seat, we'll go in and go to the overhead camera and then turn on parallel projection and just make sure that our coffee table lines up a bit better with the changes we made. Bring us to say to there, and we can turn this off again. So rather than having a TV stand, I think we're going to mount it on the wall here. So we'll just go on and see what we can find on the extension warehouse. We'll just search TV. And I think this one is a good base to go on. So we'll download this one. And like the coffee table, we'll go in here and modify different pieces of it. We'll get rid of that logo. Get rid of that swivel. Get rid of this piece on the back. And we'll just square the back of this off so we can put a mount on the wall without this poking through it. And we'll paint all of this white for now, just to sort of reset it. And we may actually get into coloring a little later on in this episode, but for now, we'll just try to make it as sort of generic as possible. And I think that's actually pretty good. We can get out of here and just check our layers. That's fine. And we'll explode this and then regroup it on our own. We'll call it TV. And now what we need to do while we're sort of in this phase is go back onto the warehouse again, and we'll see if we can find a TV mount. Rather than make it, there are actually a lot of fairly detailed ones already available on the warehouse. Like this one, that one there as well. Even this one has a little bit of an angle to it. But I think this one is going to work for our purposes. So we'll go ahead and download this one, and we'll just try and line it up with the back of our TV here. And I think that's lined up, so we'll go in and just get rid of the coloring. Now we can try to find a place to put this on the wall. So we'll just rotate it our 90 degrees. Slip it over to here. We'll just drag it over to the wall on the red axis here. There we go. And there we have it sort of placed kind of roughly for now. So we can try and size up the dimensions. And if we just put ourselves on the love seat here, it does look kind of small. I think we can probably make it a bit bigger. As it is there now, it's about 47 inches. So it's not too small, but I think we could probably make it a bit bigger, maybe even drag it up to about 55 inches or 60. We'll see what 60 looks like. So 60 would be that big. So we can probably go ahead and do that. So we can take our TV here and just drag out the scale. And we'll try and make it roughly 60 inches. About there. About there. So I think that looks pretty good. We can probably go in and maybe change or reduce the size of the bezel going around it a little bit later. All we'll need to do now is go in and sort of recenter the TV mount. So we'll just grab that and slide it over. Yeah, I think that looks pretty close. It's maybe a bit smaller than it should be for this TV. We can probably go in here and scale it up a little bit. We'll just hit control while we're dragging it this way. And I think that's probably fine. We don't need to make it too much taller. We'll maybe drag it out a tiny bit this way. There we go. And so that'll probably do it for that. Turn off hidden faces and just try and see where the TV lines up. Do the overhead camera with parallel projection again. And so it's pretty close to the center of the coffee table there. Maybe it could go up a tiny bit. I think that looks pretty good. Just dragged it up 1/4 of an inch. Delete that guide and turn parallel projection back off. And so now we can move on to sort of the accessory cabinet, and we'll just try and make sort of a smaller little rectangular box there on the bottom. And we're not going to start with any real dimensions because we're just going to try and customize this. And we'll kind of do something like this maybe. Just sort of get a feel for what sort of size we need going in here. And we'll see what this is. About maybe 4'6" in length. And we'll see what this depth is. I'll make this about maybe 14 inches deep, just because some PVRs, and if you're using game consoles or anything like that, you'll probably want a few inches coming out of the back for the wires. And we can worry about centering this after, and I guess whatever wires come out of the back of this can be run up through the wall. So we'll drag this up, sort of, doesn't really matter the height dimension at the moment, it won't be this tall, but we'll just get into figuring out, I guess from the bottom to the top. So we'll say maybe 1/2 of an inch space there. And we'll do an inch either side. Drag up a rectangle here. And drag this up an inch. And now we can figure out our bottom shelf. Maybe we'll do 2 shelves on this. We'll say 8 inches maybe for this one. Then a space of an inch. Then maybe another 8-inch shelf. And then a 1-inch space from the top. So we'll drag this down to there. Draw on our rectangles. And I guess we'll put in some support. So we'll drag one to the middle. And then we can say 0.5 either side of this. Drag that rectangle down and erase those guides. And then we can, I guess, split the top one up into thirds. So we'll drag this out an inch. And we'll just sort of divide this into 3 spaces. Pull this over to this side there. And then we can drag out our guides 1 inch either side of this and just see what this looks like. Can delete those guides. I think that looks pretty alright. So we can drag this to the back. And that's 1'2", so we'll just say 13 inches. I can drag all these back 13 inches. And we'll pull the bottom one all the way to the back there. You can erase these sort of in between lines. And maybe we won't have it be an inch on the inside. We'll just say maybe 3/4 of an inch, so we can pull this up 1/4. And we'll just see what this looks like. Pull these over 1/4. And we'll have to say 0.125 for this bottom one, just so we can keep it even on both sides. Maybe we'll pull in the sides as well. Say 1/4 inch. Yeah, I guess we'll pull the bottom up, so we'll go underneath here. Grab the bottom and pull that up 1/4. So now we can go ahead and triple click this. We'll group it, say TV cabinet. We can go back and pull this out to about here. We'll hide the coffee table for now, and we'll just go in and maybe hollow out some spaces for where the cables could go. And maybe we'll pull it back in, say 1/2 of an inch, just to make it more like a thinner MDF, sort of fake wood, rather than having it be the same 3/4 all the way around. And we can just pull out our guides to the center of each of these, and then drag it, maybe we'll say 3 inches, maybe not 3 inches, say 2 inches. And then 2 inches either side of that. Should be plenty of space to run wires out of. And we'll draw rectangles around these. And we can delete our guides and then do sort of the same thing for the bottom. Except I think what we'll do is have these be a bit closer to the middle. So bring these over 3 inches. And we can drag this 4 across. 3 inches there, and then 4 across this way. We'll drag our box around that. And then we can just bring in some 1-inch guides. Grab our arc tool and just round these corners off, just to help make them a little less sharp. And then push all of these through to the back. So now we can exit our TV accessory cabinet, pull it back to the wall, to there. Go up and say unhide last. It'll bring back our coffee table. Now we can figure out where to center this. So again, we'll do the parallel projection, go to the overhead camera and see where it lines up with the TV. And we'll just we'll put it right about there. And we can go back up and turn parallel projection back off again. We can go in and lower our TV a bit. It's probably a bit high. I'll lower it to about there. And so that'll probably do it for the living space. We could probably get into doing some more of the details, like including PVRs and maybe an amplifier and stuff like that later on once we get closer to the rendering process. But for now, that'll probably wrap it up. I guess without the addition of a rug. Maybe we'll do one of those. So we can just go in with our rectangle tool. And again, not really specifying any dimensions from the start. We'll just try and figure out one that we like. Get it to a size that we think works. We'll obviously want it to encompass the sofa, but maybe make it a bit more rectangular. Drag it out closer to the cabinet. And so that'll make it roughly, we'll say 6 feet that direction, and then we'll say 9 feet this direction. Just to help scale it up and round it off a little bit. Then we can group this. We'll say living space rug. And we'll go into it and we'll pull it up probably 1/2 of an inch. Maybe drag it down a little tiny bit of 1/16 there. And then we can go in and start trying to make this look a bit more rug-like. And we can kind of do a similar method that we used on creating the sofa. But we'll actually go in and sort of create some little inconsistencies that will help out that process. And that's sort of just pinching it, maybe changing the way that the tension is on the rug itself. Just creating some of these little these cutouts. Just pull these down and cut those off. And I'll make a few of these all the way around. And you can sort of draw these as you see fit. They don't need to be any specific dimensions or specific lengths or depths or anything like that. Just sort of randomize them. We can go back out here and we will hide both of these together. Just so we can sort of get them out of the way for now. Go back into our rug and draw some of these lines across again. And then something else I want to do is just sort of create some waves in the rug where it's maybe not perfectly flush with the floor. So we can go in and just draw some of these. Won't bring them up too high, but we can sort of draw some of these little triangles here. Drag them in a little ways. Just sort of taper them off where we can see them. That's maybe a little bit too high. Bring it to maybe there. And we'll just do a couple of these. I think generally there's usually some of these together, and it kind of depends on the rug as well. If it's a heavier rug, a heavier fabric, or even a shag rug, you're probably not going to encounter any of these. But if it's maybe more of a woven rug or a thinner material, you probably will get some of these, just because they don't flatten as much and they are sort of a bit springier. And always check what you're working on as well, just make sure that the scale works with everything else. It's pretty easy to spend a lot of time working on something and then realize that either the scale is completely wrong with everything else, or it's even too detailed for the rest of the model itself, or too similar to another part of the model. And so I guess essentially now the easier way of doing this, rather than going and mimicking the bottom, is we can just erase this. And I guess we could have done this from the beginning, but sometimes it's a bit difficult to know where you're going to go with something until you're sort of looking at it. So we'll just erase all of these just so that the top of the rug is sort of separated from the bottom. There we go. Now we can delete the bottom. We'll take the top and we'll drag this down 7/16. Then we can go back in and start drawing in the lines. And it's definitely a little backwards, but it'll help achieve the effect that we're going for. And so I think this looks pretty good. So now what we can do is we'll go ahead and we'll group this again. We'll say space rug again, and we'll say yes, replace. And so now we can go into this component and we can round our corners. And we'll just see what this looks like when we do that. It may end up sort of messing some of it up, but we'll see anyway. So it's still processing, but clearly this is not what we're after with these sort of webbed feet sort of corner things coming off it. So we're going to cancel this. So what we'll do here in this case is we'll reduce our offset down to 1/8 and reduce the number of sides down to 4. And I think that should help us. So we don't have any of these things, weird pieces sticking off. There are some on this one. Maybe what we can do here is actually just pull this piece over, and we'll try and see what this looks like now. And I guess that is part of the problem, is that some of these edges are too close. So we'll just go around and pull some of these out to make them a bit further away. And I think this should work a bit better, so now we can go ahead, we'll hit enter on that, see what it does. Alright, so this is what it's done, and it's essentially just broken the model, it seems like. So we're going to go ahead and we'll undo that again. And we'll just boil this down to, I guess, a reduction of polygons again. An eighth is fine, but we'll say 2 sides now. Just hit OK and we'll see where this goes. That certainly seems a bit better. What we essentially need this to do is just give us some edges to pull out the rounding on. And now effectively what we can do, instead of subdividing this, which is an option we can do, we're going to subdivide and smooth, sort of all at the same time. And this will break down some of those edges into smaller polygons. And then we can go, we'll grab all of this, we'll just see what it looks like. Turn off hidden geometry here. We do have some sort of weird edges. Just go in, turn on hidden geometry again and see what's sort of going on. And we'll just try and sort of get rid of some of those edges if we can. And it seems like it's sort of directly linked to this particular piece right here. So we'll try and drag this out to about there. Drag this one out and this one. And that seems to sort of reduce the problem. So we'll just pull these points out. And it's certainly not perfect, but it will look a lot better with textures on it. We can go and we got some weird lines going through. And we'll just try and erase as many of those as we can find. And we won't just straight up erase them, but we'll hold the shift key when we slide over them, and that'll sort of smooth out the face a little bit. Alright, and so now we can take all of this, and we'll just hit the smooth button on it a few times and try and bring in these sort of edges, make it sort of a little less rounded there, or rather maybe a little less uniformly rounded, and just try and taper the edges in a little bit. We'll just take our smooth tool again from Artisan and just try and get rid of some of these weird triangles that are being created. Alright, and so I think for now that'll probably do it for our rug. So we got a few little wrinkles in there. We can turn on hidden geometry. You can sort of see what that all looks like. And it's maybe not perfect, but I think it looks pretty good for now. So we can turn off hidden geometry again. We'll turn on our first floor. And then we'll turn on profile so we can kind of get a look at the rug itself. And then we can go and unhide all, and we can bring our sofa and our coffee table back in. And then we can actually go in and raise these up so that they effectively sit on the top of the rug. And maybe what we'll do for the sofa's sake is actually rotate it. And so we'll bring this up sort of on an angle. There we go, there we go. Sort of like that. And I think that looks pretty good. I'll probably go ahead and do it for the living space. But for now, I think what we're going to do, we'll turn profiles off again, is just go in and start coloring things. And we're not going to start texturing it, but we will start coloring things just so we can get an idea as to what to texture things with later. If we want certain things to be wood or certain things to be stone, that sort of thing, chrome, different types of finishes. And so we'll jump into doing that now. And so we'll probably just primarily focus on doing the kitchen. So we'll pop into here, we'll do the range hood, and we kind of want this to be a chrome look for sure. So we'll just pick a gray color, and we can get into doing all of these. And there's a lot of faces, so there's certainly a lot of coloring to do. But the best bit about coloring things is that when you replace them with a texture, it will replace everything that you've included with that texture. So this is definitely not only useful to figuring out what certain things should be color-wise, but will help us in the texturing process later on as well. And so this piece will probably be chrome, so we'll color this, as well as these little lips. And we probably won't color the top piece, we'll probably make that a bit of a different color, just to sort of give the illusion of depth. Maybe even make this almost like a darker gray up there. The only sort of drawback to this is if you want to color something essentially the same color or something else, but the texture later on ends up being different, importing the texture will also manipulate it for both Just make sure later on that when you're doing that, you have two either very similar colors or two different versions of the same color. And so the easiest way to do that is to just use a color that you probably aren't planning to use elsewhere. We'll just say this red color, for example, color this handle, and then we can go into edit, and then we can just sort of manipulate this color to what we want it to be, more of a maybe a cream color like that. And then we can use this color essentially everywhere we want this to be. And so that'll do it for the filters there, and we'll grab another reddish color, and we'll try and make this color for the mesh a little bit of a gray almost, maybe even add a little bit of yellow, maybe like that. And then we'll go in for the lights and just give them a placeholder color for now, and just manipulate this to be kind of a yellowy color. We know that the light itself isn't physically yellow, but just to indicate that these will in fact be lights later on. There we go, I think that looks pretty good. And then we'll just go in and finish off the face here. And we'll give our buttons that gray color, but the inside here where this is we'll actually give these sort of a black. And we'll want this to be sort of an LED screen color, so just give it placeholder, and we'll make it green, drag the green down, and then sort of darken it. Almost make it look like that, sort of that green color that you get on digital displays when things aren't turned on. There you go, I think that looks pretty good. Let me tone the green down a tad, maybe even a bit more yellow. And so that will do it for the range hood. And then we can go in and start working on other bits. And so the oven will mimic a lot of the range hood itself, so we can just copy these colors. I want this to have sort of that stainless steel finish. Just making sure we get all these nooks and crannies. And we're not going to do these spacer pieces the same finish. We're actually going to make that a little bit different. And this screen here can go the same essentially LCD color that we made, that there. And then we'll select a darker color for this spacer piece. And then where these little vents are, we can just color these black, or close to black. We'll make these knobs sort of a darker gray, just to indicate that they'll, sort of be maybe a plastic finish to these. And then we'll do these little spacers will be the same color as the grill that's on the top here, as well as this little bottom piece. And then we'll give our little bezel the same sort of finish from there. And then the actual glass can be this color. And we can refinish this later on. It's a sort of a bigger piece. We may even end up sort of doing a faux interior here, just so the glass doesn't look too maybe shiny or dark. We can get out of the oven then and start essentially, we'll just start painting all these knobs and handles the same silver color. And we'll give our fridge that finish as well, but we'll go into the model and we'll start coloring maybe some of the stripping going around the edges here a bit darker. As well as this bottom piece. We'll want to make this bottom piece sort of a darker plastic separate from the rest of the fridge. And we'll make that spacer going around the same. And we'll make the faucet the same as the rest of it. And we'll just go in to where the handle connects to the rest of the faucet and make sure that the handle, or the gap rather, is a little bit of a different color. And then we'll do the sink as well. We'll want to have that to be sort of a brushed metal look. And we'll do all of these. And then we'll do a sort of a similar finish with the dishwasher, make this sort of a brushed metal finish. Just to sort of keep everything in the kitchen uniform and have sort of a similar look and palette. And what we'll probably have to do here is just hide the counter unit so that we can see the rest of this. And we'll paint this. And even though you won't see a lot of what is behind here, we will actually color it, because if we don't, the sort of the emissive properties of different colors in this will sort of manipulate the surrounding ambient color. So we have a lot of white in here. When we get into the rendering process, that white will sort of be visible, because if any light is getting in there, it will sort of scatter the white color sort of out onto the floor and into the surrounding area. So we'll just make sure that it's not that color for now. Then we can do the stove top, and we'll just make the buttons that color. And then the stove itself, or the surrounding housing, can be that color. And we'll want to make these grills. These will be sort of a darker, sort of black almost. And then we'll just have these burners. These can probably be almost a darker gray. We can go into this and we'll probably make the top a darker color again. Maybe even this inside surface will darken that a little bit. And so now I guess we can look at the cabinetry colors. We'll just color this sort of temporarily red for now, and then manipulate what that looks like. We'll kind of want it to be almost sort of have a red hue to it, or reddy orange hue, but we'll make it sort of a dark gray wood finish, almost like that. I think that looks pretty good. See what this looks like compared to everything else. I think that's right about where we want it. And if we decide to change this later, the beauty is we can just go in and manipulate it. So just make sure we get all these individual pieces. All right, I think that does it for the cabinets on the top here. Nope, we got to do this underside piece. All right, now I guess we can do the countertops, and these will be almost a white color. We'll say light gray for now. We can edit this. And we'll want this to have sort of a small creamy hue to it, but we'll definitely make them closer to white. I think right about there, maybe a 2, something like that. We'll copy this over to this counter, and then we can get into doing the cabinets the same color as on the other side. And it's always good to double and triple check when you're painting these tiny little crevices, just to make sure that you did get everything, because it's pretty easy to miss them. Especially when they are so small. And I think now we can start coloring these lights, and then we can just select sort of a random red color, and we can go in and start editing it. We'll want to sort of bring this down. We'll want it to be a very sort of dark color, but we can definitely have some sort of red, reddishness in it. Maybe bring that up more to an orange. And then we can go back into these, and we'll want to change the color of the cord, obviously, because we don't want that to be the same as the finish. And then we can make the interior of this definitely more of a silver color to help reflect the light. Maybe make the housing a little bit different color there. There we go. And then we'll go up to the base, and yeah, the base is done as well. So now of course we can focus on the light bulb, and we'll make the base of the light and sort of the interior, I guess, can all go sort of that silver color. And we'll want the glass to be I guess the glass is probably all right the way it is, as it is just the default color. Can go into here and sort of bring down our opacity there. And now we'll go to the interior of the bulb, and we'll just triple click all of the filaments, and we'll just go up now and paint them pink, I guess. And then we can manipulate that to more of a yellow. And I'll bring down the extremeness of it, probably about there. And I think that looks all right. So that'll probably do it for the bulbs in these. And now the stools, I guess, will go that metal color. So we'll just grab that off the stove. And we can go in and maybe change the base a little bit. Or maybe we'll just leave these the way they are for now. That's probably fine. So we'll change the floor color now. We can get into what the floor color should be. Again, we'll make that a default red. And we'll want it to be kind of similar to the finish of the cabinets, but we don't want it to be too dark. Kind of want it to be a bit more colorful, so we'll lighten this up a little bit. And now, of course, the beauty is we can get out of the component, and then we can still manipulate the color of the floor. Maybe take the color down a little bit, brighten it up, maybe to there. I think that looks pretty good. So we can get over to the tile trim, and we'll want to make this that silver color. And now I guess we'll want the tiles to be sort of that cream color, sort of a general, almost gray hue. And so, of course, yep, we'll pick that red again. More of an orange, and bring that down very, very, very low. And start to introduce some of the grayness to it. I think that'll probably work for now. We kind of want it to be similar to the countertop, but a little bit different. And I think that will work in the time being. And we can definitely start seeing some of the kitchen come together. We can go over here and we'll say, what can we make the couch color? Looks pretty good in that yellow, actually, but I don't think we're going to leave it that color. We'll probably make it more of a woven wicker tan color, of course. And I kind of like that where it is. Maybe make it a little bit more colorful up to there. And we'll just go in and change these legs so that they're not the same color as the fabric. And actually probably make them pretty close to the wood color. So bring that down to there. I think that will work. We can go into the coffee table, and we'll want to make the top of this wood, of course. So we'll start with a red, and then we'll just edit this color. And we'll try and make this, I guess, pretty similar to the floor, maybe a bit more colorful than that. So we'll just leave it on sort of a red, drag this down. I guess probably pretty similar to what it was before we removed the texture. Actually, I probably will manipulate these a little bit as well, make them a bit more colorful. Then we can go into this model, and we'll probably make the spacer piece a bit of a darker color, maybe something like this. And then we'll just take this silver color that we've used elsewhere and color the frame with this. Alright, there we go. I think that'll do it for that. So now we can figure out our TV. We'll make our screen almost a black, and the bezel. We'll probably make that sort of a darker color as well. And then I guess, again, we can use this silver color here for the edge that's going around. And then specifically for the back, we can probably use a darker gray. And then I guess we can grab our TV mount and sort of make that a silver color as well. And then we sort of need to figure out what to make the TV cabinet or the accessory cabinet. We can probably even just make it the cabinetry colors for now. I think that might work. We may decide to keep the walls sort of a creamy color, and I don't think we're going to get into the walls today, but they probably won't change too much from what they already are. And so now I guess we'll just color the rug that we made to make this a red color, and maybe we'll have it be more of a gray, almost blue accent color. And maybe we'll pull the blue down a little bit. We'll say 2 on that. And then we can get into the sort of the love seat thing again, and we can modify this to have a little bit less color, just to sort of match the, not monochrome, but sort of a, almost a darker hue of the rest of the house. And pull it up a tiny bit. Let's turn our shadows on and see what everything looks like here with those color changes. And I think it looks pretty good. I think this is starting to get a bit cozy, starting to feel a bit more realistic, and definitely once we get into the texturing, a lot of this stuff will pop even more. And so next time we'll probably continue doing some of the coloring around the house, and I guess also figure out what we're doing with our bathroom. But that'll go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this series, and of course the rest of my videos. I'll see you guys next time.